Another episode of Ghetto Garage. 2 videos in one day. Wow. I just thought I'd show you guys some things. You probably already know it, but you know, hey, I don't know. See this, it's not a chop off saw, it's just a saw. But I got the paper up there because when sparks blow, all that pieces of metal, they'll actually burn into the glass. So that's why I put paper there, to protect that. Anyway, I thought I'd show you more about my welder. I bought this welder in 1991. It's the smallest one you can get. It's SP100. It's a Lincoln. I bought it for 450 bucks used. It was 6 months old from a friend of mine. And this is what, I love a good deal. This is what he paid. He bought it in 91. He paid, come on, where is it at? 900, where am I reading it at? Okay, she's so cute. You got $672 for the welder and everything. And then he bought his own tanks. Because if you don't buy your own tanks, you gotta rent them by the day or whatever, it gets expensive. Anyway, he paid $906.30, and I bought it for $450. I didn't make the cart. Someone else made the cart, but I did modify it. I keep everything contained. These are wire cutters, and this just pieces of exhaust. And this is like an old pill bottle to hold my brushes. And this is a Scotch-Brite that I clean the tips with. And actually this little plastic, it's all magnetized, you know, so I don't know. These are actually, they're pretty good. They're by Welding. This is red. And this is black. They're like little sponges. I'll show you what I mean. Because seeing how this welder is only a 110, you got to make it run as efficient as you can. See where those things are? The first one is the red pad cleans it, and the black pad lubricates it before it goes to the hose. I don't like spending money, but what I had to do is I had to buy a new hose because that sleeve gets gouged out. Well, I read in the manual that every year you're supposed to take the spool out and blow it through, blow the line through, and a lot of dirt will come out, which is true. And I always buy the big spool, and I don't know, it's hard for me to explain, but I use argon gas. Now you can buy wire that has flux on it, but it's a lot more expensive. And I know I'm always going to weld something, so I buy the argon gas. And I made this little thing. What this does is, when you put it in your shoulder and you're welding, you don't need a third hand. You can push whatever the quarter panel, whatever it is, you can push it in and hold it while you tack weld it. Tack welding is when you weld the spots. Spot welding, some people will dispute it. Spot welding is 2 pieces of metal that pinch it together and heat penetrates it and holds it together. That's a spot weld. Tack weld is with a welder. That's my opinion. And then I got this little case right here. This is where my batteries go for my helmet. I made this little swing thing. Actually, this little container right here is off a Bondo jug, and I always buy bulk of stuff so I don't want to run out. And then this is I don't know what this is. I got it from my wife. It holds my gauge. I try to keep everything self-contained so I know where everything's at. And like I said before, I put this is for anti-splatter on your tip. And that right there that I showed you before, that is actually weld-through primer. So when you're doing a panel and you spray it on the back, the weld is not, it'll penetrate through the metal, but it won't leave your metal rusty. you know, because it'll be primed. This is what I was talking about. When you do a lot of welding, you get a lot of little balls that blow off. That's called anti-splatter. And I'm real kind of anal when I do stuff, so I went back and modified it. These are just rubber hoses slid over a round rod. And then this is my ground clamp. See how I got it hooked there? Well, if you pull it down, I like to preserve everything, you know. I want it to last forever. And so I don't know what year it's 2011, so it was new in 91, it's still lasting. What this is you take this handle off. See, that's a little holder. So when I store it, I don't know, I don't want this right here to get bent, because that got bent before and it screwed it up too. And then I put this leather on it so it won't ever burn the hose. What else I got to say? This is a little crimper tool that, where are we at? Okay, see right there? That'll punch a hole in metal. And if you spin it, if I could spin it, wow. What that does, that makes a flange. So the whole part is, what you do is when you make the flange, when you put the quarter panel on, that flange will make it, if you have a piece of metal, it will make the metal that you're patching. I always patch on the inside, but you got to make a flange. And then when you do these little holes, you punch that through the metal, and it gives you a spot to weld. It's still called a tack weld. Maybe you guys ain't interested in it, but basically all my tips and everything I buy in bulk, and the cheapest place I've been able to find is HTP. I think I found it on eBay. It would be actually usaweld.com, because I'm always trying to save a buck. This helmet is really old. It's one of the first ones that came out. My dad actually bought it for me. That's why I won't get rid of it. I've modified it more than once. You could tell that's jerry-rigged up where it, you know, where it slides, where it twists. I've had to modify it more than once. The clip where the battery goes, see, that's actually duct tape that sticks down. Like I said, my dad bought me that, and I just won't never get rid of it. But anyway, you see how this front cover is getting really bad. So what I did is, I know they're quite pricey, like $8 for the little piece of shield. So what I did is I took this pattern and I just went down to Lowe's and bought a bunch of plexiglass, and I cut them all to size ahead of time. And then inside there's a shield. That's a little piece of plastic right there too. Well, I cut a bunch of these too, you know, just out of plexiglass, you know, because I'm trying to save a buck. What else I got to say? Probably not. That weld stuff, that pack stuff, them little lubricant things, they were pretty goddamn good, I think. Because a lot of times my wire would get, it would go zzz, zzz, you know, it would get jammed up with dirt and stuff. Like I said, I wouldn't use the flux tube. Flux wire, I wouldn't use it. I've never did, but I don't know. It's hard to go out and buy these tanks too, though. Like I said, they cost Hostler $212 back in 1991. That way I can just walk in, switch tanks, and call it even. You know, it's less time and hassle. Otherwise, like I said, I've heard of guys doing it where they have to rent it by the day, or it's a percentage. It's kind of ridiculous, but anyway. And I always say, my philosophy is, I heard it somewhere, or read it somewhere, that if it's metal, it's not broke, because you can fix it. And when you're gonna weld, you always want to clean the metal. I've seen people where they'll weld right through paint, Yeah, kinda. I wouldn't do it because I don't think you're going to get a very good hold. And I always, when I cut it, there's always a burn. I always grind it because, you know, a lot of times you're not wearing gloves and you're fucking around with shit, and you'll grab it and fucking, there you go, you got hand, you'll have shit like this, you know. I try to wear gloves all the time. See where I split this was actually square tubing, and I split it, you know, because I didn't need it that durable. But you see right here, it's not cutting my hand. And if I didn't grind it down, which takes time, if I didn't grind it down, you could be careless and get cut real quick. See, it's just this square tubing. It's 12 gauge. Actually, it's a little bit more than 12 gauge. My idea of a weld is, when you do me personally, when I do a weld, you don't want the weld to be really built up. In my opinion, it means that you want really a real big heat mark right here, and you want the weld to be not flush, but you know, you don't want to do a lot of grinding. So, like I said, it's recommended that when you're running 12 gauge, that you would do it. Hook this on J5, and that's the max. Okay, where are we at? See, I got it on 4, and then I have it on the J, and I'll test it. What I do is that's the highest heat range. I'm glad I got this one, because the newer ones, they go click, click, A, B, C, D on a Lincoln. And you can't get in between the heat ranges. This is harder to weld. So I don't know, they probably must have been cheaper at the factory to not make them like this, but I'm glad I got this one. And like I said, I want it to penetrate. Like you see that, this is on the, you probably can't see it, but this is on the, I welded on the backside. You see the heat mark way out here where my finger is? I actually welded in here, and you want that big heat. You want to go around and tack it first and then full weld. But heavy metal like this, you can actually full weld. And I've warped my shear metal. So what you really want to do if you're welding like sheet metal on a car or something, as soon as you tack it, you want to take an air hose at 100 pounds and just blow right on it. You would be surprised how fast it cools that weld off. Actually, on my truck, I don't know, I wasn't thinking. I knew the information, but I wasn't thinking, and I warped the truck doors when I tack welded, because I don't know. I know you can use water to spray on it, but then the water gets behind the panel and it creates moisture. And I knew the information about blowing over the air hose, but I don't know, I wasn't thinking. It was a no-brainer. So when I started watching Southwest Rock and Custom videos, he used the air hose a lot. And it kind of dawned on me, and I brought it back, and for some reason now it's stuck with me. But anyway, I don't know why I'm showing this video, because maybe it'll teach somebody. Sometimes we assume everybody knows everything, and maybe somebody doesn't know how to weld. Like I said, this is not a how-to video, it's just how I do it. It doesn't mean it's right, it doesn't mean it's wrong. You know, it just is. And you ever seen welds where they're like, looks like bird shit, you know, and it's not penetrating, it's not a good weld, and then you have to grind so much down and basically have to do it again. Anyway, I'm still not real happy, but I'll get over it. Maybe as the day goes on. It's really cold here. Like I always say, people, say it with me. Piece of property, piece of mind, piece of pussy, piece of something, motherfucker. Peace.